Hi guys, I wanted to clarify some stuff because I wrote, my friend Dad starting over had an interesting post about porn and sex life and sex drive, and it's something that I work with a lot as a couples counselor, I'm a psychologist. I work with individuals and couples, and so I wanted to expand on what I had said because it seemed like I obviously have multiple posts and podcasts about it, but so the thing is that porn artificially inflates your libido. So it's basically acts as a drug. It releases loads of dopamine in your brain. The brain was not meant to see that many naked women doing all sorts of crazy stuff at once. It really wasn't. So it short circuits. It's like it explodes your brain, right? So that you walk around in this super fluffed up state. You're like primed. You see sex everywhere when you're watching porn on the regular, and you think everybody has a high sex drive and everybody's doing it, and you see it everywhere. You think everybody's having more sex than they are, and it makes you think that you're the only one that's in like a low sex marriage, and that's certainly not true. Makes you think that your wife is the only one that won't do crazy stuff in bed. Certainly not true. Makes you think that your wife's the only one who's shy or awkward in bed. Definitely not true. And it literally keeps you physically and mentally primed and fluffed for sex, So if your wife has a low sex drive, this is the exact opposite of what you should be doing. Your regular libido is far away and is far enough from her on the scale. You want to be close together, right? That's the ideal. Your natural libido is already far away from where hers is. Porn brings it like way over, 7 miles over that way. Not useful, right? So I use the analogy, and leave likes if you're watching this, but I use the analogy. What if your wife really loves to talk and you don't really like her to talk as much as she talks because you can't really follow, and she gets mad at you if you don't talk enough, and then she said, I know what, I'll take a stimulant pill that makes me talk even more. You would be like, why would you do that to our marriage? We are already struggling in this domain. Why would you artificially fluff up your talking drive even more so you could be even more disappointed with my ability to engage with you on that dimension? And it's the exact same thing for porn. So if you are thinking about it as an outlet, it is not an outlet of any sort. It keeps you fluffed up higher. This is not an outlet. That's super short-term thinking. Short-term, immediately afterwards, you feel like that was an outlet. But overall, over the long term, you are keeping yourself in this hyper-primed state. When guys stop using porn for even a week, it's like the fog lifts. They feel clearer. They stop seeing sex everywhere. They stop thinking the Starbucks girl is winking at them. They stop getting so mad at their wives. They stop feeling aggressively angry when rejected. It's really amazing. And you wouldn't believe it until you actually do it or until you talk to somebody who's done it. And there's a lot of people on the internet that say the exact same thing. There's whole support groups for guys to stop using porn because guys themselves see the difference when they are on it or not on it. Ironically, if women, I say there's one kind of porn that's good for sex lives, and it's erotic stories. So I recommend erotic stories to women to figure out what they might even like in bed. Low libido women need all the help they can get, right? And send me likes if you're watching, and you can send me comments that I'll answer if you have questions about this topic. But low libido women, they need all the help they can get. Just like if in my prior analogy, the man took the pill to talk more. Great. Let him take the pill to talk more. That makes a lot of sense, right? Then they'd be together on the talking variable. So if a low libido woman wants to read erotic stories, get some ideas and figure out what turns her on, cool. That can help her go up to where he is, even at least a little bit. Or if she wants to look at visual porn, unless, of course, she masturbates to orgasm and then she's done, in which case that's terrible because that's very bad for the marriage, right? That's why I say with vibrators, Vibrators are cool if we're using it together sometimes, but that can be just as addictive for women as porn can be. It's an easy thing that's not replicable in the natural world, and so women can just do that, go to sleep, and not want sex. That's not fair, unless everybody's having all the sex in the whole world because they're 25 years old in the honeymoon stage, in which case nobody's coming into my office. So send me some likes if you're watching or if you learn anything new from anything that I say. And if you have any questions, there's 28 of you watching, so I should have a lot of likes. And if any of you have any questions about this, about porn use as a quote outlet, which of course I'm telling you is not right. I have a recent post, 4 reasons that porn is bad for your marriage. And this is nothing moral. I mean, of course, there are moral reasons. A lot of those women are not engaged consensually. And sometimes when I mention that, it's like the first that guys ever heard of it. When they really think about it, well, gee, like, even if it's amateur or consensual, you think those women thought they had a lot of other options? I mean, let's really be real. But, so sometimes that can actually be a change of worldview. But even let's say it's all AI, right? Because it's going to be one day. It's just going to be all AI. You'll literally be able to type in the porn situation that you want, and it'll be there. How could that be good for your marriage, right? I mean, let's think about it. What if a robot boyfriend was following her around, being romantic and clever and doing everything she wanted and renovating the bathroom on command? I mean, you think that would be good for your marriage? Are you crazy? That's just like what the porn use is, Joe here says, totally defeating that the toy takes the place of the real thing. Yes, exactly. So like if a woman got addicted to a vibrator and she's masturbating every night with a vibrator, that's not going to be good for the relationship, right? Because all of the stuff about how empowering it is for a woman to learn her body, she already learned, she's doing the same exact thing every night for 10 seconds to go to sleep, instead of potentially let that desire build up and have sex with her partner, right? And so when a man uses porn, first of all, if he becomes addicted, he does actually prefer it to sex with the woman. So and that happens. You could talk to people, lots of women are in that situation where they're actually the higher libido partner and the guy doesn't want to have sex and he's addicted to porn. That's a real thing in the world. Even though some guys pretend there's no higher libido women and no guys with porn addiction. That's not true. But also, he gets used to these crazy things, right? The stimulation that he needs. He thinks he's looking at normal, amateur porn. Your wife is not an amateur porn actress. Her normal is not like the normal of a woman that consents, in a best case scenario, to allow herself to be videotaped having sex. Right? I mean, so we're just using, it's like comparing you to the vibrator. That's not a thing. And imagine it was you to an entire sex robot that includes a vibrator. That's not going to work either. It's not going to work in that she's going to pick you. She's not going to pick you. Who's she going to pick? Vibrating sex god man, right? So it's the same thing. And you eventually are going to become very annoyed with whatever she does in bed because it doesn't look like porn. And I've seen that happen time and time and time again. And when there's a reset and the guy gives up porn, then all of a sudden, things seem more normal in the bedroom. He seems less aggressive. The things he asks for are not so outside the pale. It's like it was. I only started my practice 14 years ago, and those 14 years has been a tremendous uptick in people that come in with this issue, right? Because porn gets better and better and better, as there's just more and more rampant. It's more ubiquitous. OnlyFans proliferated. There's so many differences, even just from where it was at just 14 years ago. So it's like this whole thing. You could get anything you want in any way, talking to any person in any modality. And that's going to make, it's going to keep you primed in this artificially heightened state that most men do not need because they are already far away from their wives on that dimension. So ramping themselves up even more is not good for the marriage, and it doesn't make any sense. Just like my analogy about her taking a pill to talk more. Who needs it? No one. No man wants her to take that pill. And that's the same thing for priming yourself with porn. All right, anybody have any questions about that or about anything related to relationships, marriage, intimacy, y'all should be joining my secret group. I engage in there a lot. That's the blue subscribe button on the Dr. Psych Mom page. 36 of you watching, so you should send likes, and then I'll have a lot of likes. John says, so what is the guy in a low sexless marriage with a low libido wife supposed to do? So somebody asks that to me basically every day in the comments, and I cannot say anything besides I have thousands of posts and podcasts about that, and I've devoted my life to helping people. Probably a full third to a half of the couples that I work with are in therapy for this issue. A lot of them get a lot better. So therapy is number one, right? So number one thing is to get that woman into therapy. And if she completely refuses, then she doesn't want to stay married. And she's probably not going to stay married anyway. So kind of, you got to push it, because if she wants to stay married, she's going to go. Of course, sex won't be the only thing you talk about in couples counseling, but it'll be some of it. It'll be a good half of it. As I talk about, you need to get a counselor that focuses on that. People don't even understand their bodies. They don't understand desire. They don't understand biology. They don't understand the impacts of the medications they're on, birth control. They don't understand what happens after the honeymoon stage, responsive desire versus spontaneous desire. A lot of people don't know their erotic blueprints or even what they expect subconsciously in the bedroom. Many women have no idea how to verbalize what they want or what isn't working. There's just so many things to work on, I mean, the most basic things are things that are novel to the majority of couples who come in. Even just really basic psychoeducation about the honeymoon stage and how the woman's libido drops after that, and that it doesn't have to do with anything that the guy necessarily did. But at that juncture, he's going to have to learn her body better. She's going to have to pay attention to the responsive desire, track when she's ovulating. A lot of women don't even do that. And that's like the most basic level thing that they have no idea is an impact. And the guy has no idea either. There are just so many things, John, that you can learn and that you can be taught and that you can try. But certainly considering something to be an outlet that isn't an outlet is not one of them. Just like a woman reading romance novels compulsively is not an outlet. If she's obsessed with reading romance novels and reads them as much as the guy looks at porn, so like every day, then those romance novels are going into her head, right? And they're shaping how she thinks about the world, and she may grow more dissatisfied with him. Or my favorite analogy, HGTV. So if a woman came in and she said, I'm so disappointed with that my husband isn't more handy around the house, and I'm disappointed with where we live. So as an outlet, because I can't just live like that, right? So as an outlet, I watch HGTV every day and I look at houses get renovated. I'd be like, girl, you're screwing yourself. You're making it worse for yourself. Why don't you stop watching that stuff, Because you're going to be more disappointed with the life that you're in. Could we also work on maybe moving or renovating the foyer or something? Sure. Also on your end, you have to stop escaping into something that's making you hate your life more and have it a very, very unrealistic comparison point. John says, why does it have to be an obsession? Not everyone becomes an addict. Yes, but it is like a drug in your brain. So it is, as I said, and maybe you missed the beginning of the video, but the male or no brain was meant to see 100 perfect looking women doing everything that you want naked in 5 minutes across a screen. It releases so much dopamine in your brain that there's like really very little that can compare. And it starts you thinking like, oh, everything's like that. Everybody's kind of having sex all the time. Like you feel a little bit fluffed and primed. You should go back to the beginning of the video. You feel a little bit fluffed and primed all the time. Sex is everywhere. And so my male clients tell me that when they stop watching, and this is not just the porn addicts, right? These are the guys that just watch it every other day and they think it's nothing. When they stop watching it, things go down. Things calm down a little bit to whatever their natural sex drive is, which is usually lower than most middle-aged men expect it to be because they've been fluffing it up with porn all this time. Just like a woman who was taking the talking pill every day stops taking the talking pill, all of a sudden maybe her husband could hear himself think, and that was how much she was supposed to talk naturally. But she never knew because she was always taking the talking pill. Or she doesn't know what her natural desire to have a renovated bathroom would be like because she's been watching HGTV since she was 25. So if she stops watching HGTV, she may be fine with the bathroom. Or she may just want to do a little pick-me-up to the bathroom instead of something that costs $30,000. So that's why, and I could phrase it in a million other analogies, but that's that. And so for many guys, I say, okay, cool, you need your outlet, so jerk off without the porn. All right, good. And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, man, that was so boring. I couldn't even get through it, honestly. It was shocking because I used to be able to do that in my 20s. 7 hours straight, and they're like, I tried to do it, and without the porn, it's like, I don't know. So, but we had sex a couple times this week, so, I'm good. I'm like, man, you were having sex a couple times the previous week, but it wasn't good because you were thinking all the time it could be better, we could be doing this, we could be doing that, blah, blah, because these images go into your mind, So, so if Paul here says it's either porn or a hooker, so there's something called not being together anymore. So if a person feels like they have to go to a hooker, there's also arrangements people come up with too, because a lot of super avoidant, low libido wives would say, you know what, live and be well, go get your needs met outside the marriage. And some of them try to say that in my office, and the guy's like, no, but I love you. So, there's so much to do before, and you should never cheat. And of course, you should never cheat and think that's your only option. That's never anybody's only option. So the point being that if your marital sex life is so bad, she refuses to go to counseling, she refuses any other arrangement, then she probably doesn't want to be married. And the loveless relationship that that your kids are seeing is probably not that great. Because to be with somebody who totally refuses to go to counseling, they probably do not want to be married. Truly, because if you say it directly, because a lot of guys are like, I brought it up once and she said no, so that was it. No, you got to bring it up and say, I scheduled it. It's scheduled, it's on the books. And if she wants to stay married, she will go, and there's so much that can be done. And not just therapy. Like I have Heather who works for me. She's an intimacy coach. She's a sexologist. She's not a therapist, but she works with couples, There are so many people that just need basic education about sex. And then they start having sex, because they never knew before. For example, that responsive desire kicks in. The woman and the man both thought that she was supposed to desire him out of nowhere, the way that she did when she was 20. Doesn't work like that anymore, right? There's just so much, and I've done so much. I have so much content on this and on all the various ways to deal with libido disparity marriages on my podcast, the Dr. Psych Mom Show, and on my blog, Dr. Psych Mom, and just everywhere. So you guys could start with that. And of course, there's Heather, there's me, there's the people who work for me that you could always work with. So send likes if you're watching this, and I have time for like one more question. Or a couple more questions. Depends when my husband gets home. I'm going to listen. When he gets home, I will go. But yeah, I have a couple more questions. There's 40 of you watching, so send your likes if you are watching. I always like to see your likes, and it helps other people see the Dr. Psych Mom. This is not the Dr. Psych Mom Show. The Dr. Psych Mom Show is the podcast. But I have people that comment on the video, I love your show. I think meaning this, which is interesting. So I do these lives as much as I can do them. And it's your turn. It's your time to ask questions. You could also always join my secret group to ask questions, but I do not answer them on the blog anymore. I don't have time anymore to answer like everybody's individual questions, although I do repost some of those on Medium that I've done in years prior. So if you see them on Medium, those are the question and answers from years prior. So if anybody has any other questions, somebody gave me stars. Thank you very much. If anybody sees stars, that's always very nice. John says, that's what I don't get. They do want to be married. They'd be happy to continue with the status quo. Yeah, sure, they would be not happy. They're usually not happy when I meet them, but they're fine. They're prioritizing the kids, and they think nobody's really supposed to be that happy in marriage. They are more avoidant people. They usually had difficult home lives. So do the guys that they're with, but different kind of difficult home lives. And if they want to be married, they go to couples counseling. If they want to be married and it is put as this is something that we have to do because I'm very unhappy in this marriage, then they go to couples counseling. But a lot of guys, and I have the article, Stop Caring So Much What Your Wife Thinks, preoccupied attachment guys that find it very, very difficult to put their foot down about anything because God forbid she should get mad, you know, or sad or feel bad in any kind of a way. So they do not push it. And when you don't push it, you don't get it. You know, that's kind of how life goes. So, you know, and I have 2 podcasts, how to convince your wife to go to couples counseling and more ways to convince your wife to go to couples counseling or your partner. Because a lot of guys refuse couples counseling too. And in 20% of the situations, and a third of the couples that I see, the guy is the lower libido partner who doesn't want to get his low T treated or his depression treated or his addiction treated or whatever is going on with him. So Ryan, when you say what's a guy supposed to do, I covered that. It was early on. So these lives, they always get posted. So you guys can go back and click on play as soon as I'm done with this. And I discuss it in depth, ad nauseum. I talk all about the things that you would learn. Joe, I think you're the guy that asked all those questions. Was it earlier today? Is this the longest day in the world? Are you the honeymoon stage guy? How is it that they were okay with sex in the beginning? Yeah, you must be, because in the beginning, most people don't have kids, but I remember you have 4, right? So how is it they were okay with sex in the beginning when the kids were asleep, but not now because they may wake up? Joe, did you already listen to the stuff I told you to do? It's, listen to the podcast, because when you're on honeymoon stage, you're like drunk. It's basically like saying, why is she okay with, doing certain things in bed when she's drunk, but not when she's sober? It's like, well, because she's drunk and her inhibitions are down. Honeymoon stage makes you drunk. You're drunk. In scanners and MRIs, different parts of the brain light up when you're in new love. New relationship energy, the infatuation stage, the honeymoon stage, all synonymous, make your brain basically drunk. So the reason that she had sex when the kids were next door is because she didn't give a shit, because she was drunk on new love, same as if she was drunk on vodka. That's why. And the sooner you listen to that, Joe, the more of your life will make sense. And the same as anybody else listening. It's like saying to your wife, like at breakfast, why aren't you dancing on the table here at IHOP like you were last night when you were wasted at the bar? You were dancing on the table. Because I'm not drunk anymore, and don't even bring that up because it's so embarrassing. All my inhibitions were down. And now when you even bring it up, I feel embarrassed. Anybody, you know, and lust, by the way, like when she gets very excited, you know, so even after the honeymoon stage, when she ovulates, it's a little bit like that. She's drunk on wanting to breed. She wants to make a baby. Her body wants to make a baby. Even if she has enough babies. You're going to say she already has 4. Cool, that's enough. And her body still wants to make another baby because she's ovulating. So that's a little bit, you get a little bit hit of the drunk on new love hormones when women ovulate. But also when she's very sexually aroused. So if you have like if she's very excited, right, won't she sometimes do things that she doesn't usually do? That's the same thing. The dopamine, the adrenaline, it's the same cocktail in her brain. Her inhibitions go down. But then the next morning, her inhibitions are back. She is sober as the day is long. And if you bring up something she did in bed last night, she doesn't want to hear it because her inhibitions are back. The uninhibited drunken state is gone. So Eric here says, will her libido come back at all after perimenopause? Now, Eric, you need to go back and read more of my stuff, okay? Perimenopause is the stage before menopause. So what happens after perimenopause starts in your 40s. That peri is before, pre. It's like pre. So menopause hits. So for most women, that is not when your libido comes back. There's some women who insist that it does for them, possibly because they just totally can't get pregnant anymore. And possibly many of them that go on HRT, hormone replacement therapy, and they never had any hormones replaced before. And some of them because the kids leave the house, and that was like always like a super big thing. But it's incredibly rare for a woman's drive to go up after menopause, because think about it. Evolutionarily, what sense would that make? We are all mammals, right? She's no longer fertile. She's not fertile at all. She's not ovulating. There's no chance. So at that stage, it's all responsive desire. There's also something called vaginal atrophy, which can sometimes be treated with estrogen cream, which is when you're basically, it is what it sounds. The vagina kind of atrophies. You're not supposed to be making a baby, right? So your body kind of shuts down the systems. if you were always very high libido, and it's a very big part of your self-concept, then a woman, and the woman feels happily married, and she likes touch, then some people can go on and have pretty good, sex lives. Nothing like when they were young, right? Because the parts are different. Everything works very different, right? But they can continue to have fulfilling sex lives. However, there's a lot of, many more women feel done. They just feel like that part of their life is over. If they love the guy, they will continue, but sometimes they can't have intercourse. It's too painful because that body part hurts. It's not meant to do that, right? Some women do hormone replacement therapy. Some women don't. Some women are open to it and they try it and they have side effects. Some women are told not to do that by their doctors because they've had various other risks. There's all sorts of things, but overall, with age and with the decrease in the ability to breed, right? Why would drive go up? It just makes no sense, It just, like, would you expect like an older pet to want to mate as much as a younger pet, right? I mean, like, people know it for like dogs and cats, and then they can't think about it for humans because it's like too close to home and they don't want to think about it. But anyway, I did hear my husband come in. Thank you so much. Everybody send me likes and loves and join my secret group. We talk about a lot of interesting stuff all the time. And have a great night, guys.